If there is one symbol that represents the Jurassic period, it is not the ferocious predators or the bloody battles, but the appearance of the largest creatures ever to walk on land in the entire history of Earth. About 150 million years ago, across flooded plains and among conifer forests stretching all the way to the horizon, herds of giant sauropods moved slowly like walking mountain ranges. Each of their footsteps was so heavy that it could shake the ground. These were not rare, exceptional individuals, but common inhabitants of the Jurassic world. Famous species such as Diplodocus, Apatosaurus, Camarasaurus, and Brachiosaurus dominated many ecosystems across the planet. A Diplodocus could reach more than 30 meters in length, roughly equal to the length of a medium-sized passenger airplane. Large Brachiosaurus individuals could weigh from 50 to more than 60 tons, equivalent to the combined weight of about 10 adult African elephants. What is astonishing is that their enormous size gave them extremely important advantages. Their long necks, capable of reaching many meters high, allowed them to access food sources that almost no other animal could reach. In the world of the Jurassic period, where conifer forests, tree ferns, and cycads covered the land, that was a tremendous advantage. The larger they became, the more they could contain a larger digestive system, allowing them to process fibrous, hard-to-digest plants more efficiently. Even the largest predators of that time had to think very carefully before attacking a creature weighing dozens of tons, standing on 4 massive pillar-like legs, and carrying a tail that could become a terrifying weapon. If being that large was an advantage, why do animals today not continue growing to a similar size? The answer lies in the profound difference between dinosaurs and mammals. Mammals must invest a great deal of energy in maintaining a stable body temperature, nursing their young with milk, and developing large brains. However, a body that is too large would face the risk of collapsing under its own weight. So why did that not happen? Fossil studies show that nature found astonishing solutions. Sauropod legs did not sprawl outward like those of modern lizards, but stood vertically beneath the body like enormous support columns, helping distribute weight far more effectively. More importantly, their bones were not completely solid. Inside, many vertebrae were hollow air-filled chambers, significantly reducing weight while still maintaining mechanical strength. Thanks to these adaptations, sauropods pushed beyond the limits that most other land animals could never reach, turning themselves into colossal living fortresses that dominated the Jurassic world for tens of millions of years. And the deeper scientists study, the more they realize that Jurassic dinosaurs were not simply giant reptiles. They were biological machines optimized to an astonishing degree. The first secret lies in their respiratory system. Fossils analyzed since the late 20th century completely changed that understanding. Inside the vertebrae and ribs of many sauropod species, scientists discovered clear traces of an air sac system similar to that of modern birds. That allowed oxygen to be supplied efficiently throughout both inhalation and exhalation. Sauropods possessed a biological air conditioning system far more advanced than people once imagined. But oxygen was only one part of the story. CT scan studies of fossils have revealed another astonishing design. Many sauropod vertebrae contained countless hollow chambers connected to the air sac system. This structure significantly reduced body weight while still maintaining extremely high mechanical strength. Thanks to this pneumatic bone system, the long neck of Brachiosaurus, or Diplodocus, did not become a deadly burden. Instead, it became an incredibly effective feeding tool. However, even a lighter body and a more efficient respiratory system still required a massive energy source to operate. An adult sauropod could consume hundreds of kilograms of plants each day. Most sauropods barely chewed. Their teeth were mainly used to strip leaves, pull young branches, and then swallow them directly. The work of crushing and breaking down food was transferred into the enormous digestive system inside the body. Tons of plant matter would be fermented over a long period of time by gut microorganisms. This allowed them to take in enormous amounts of food at a speed that many modern herbivores could never reach. And then, for many years, people once thought that creatures this gigantic must have taken a very long time to mature. But researchers discovered that many sauropod species grew at an astonishing rate. From hatchlings weighing only a few kilograms when they first emerged, they could add tons of body mass during the early years of life. Some species reached adult size in only a few decades, far faster than people once imagined for gigantic animals. It was these traits that turned Jurassic dinosaurs into true super animals, pushing beyond the limits that most other land creatures would never reach. But the success of these giant herbivores also created a new pressure. In a world where prey became larger and harder to bring down, only predators with the most specialized weapons had a chance to dominate. And that was when Allosaurus appeared, not only as the largest carnivore in many North American ecosystems of that time, but also as one of the most successful hunting machines evolution had ever created. An adult Allosaurus could reach 8 to 10 meters in length and weigh more than 2 tons. But in nature, the ruler is not always the largest. What matters is the ability to turn the body into a perfect weapon. The special trait of Allosaurus lay in a hunting strategy completely different from that of Tyrannosaurus, which appeared later. Biomechanical studies show that the bite force of Allosaurus was not especially powerful. How could an apex predator possess a bite force that was not truly superior? The answer lies in the structure of its skull and neck. Its skull was long, light, and flexible, allowing the head to move faster. Its curved, sharp, serrated teeth were like blades specialized for slicing flesh. Instead of trying to hold prey with a single bite, Allosaurus most likely rushed in repeatedly, bit deeply, and then yanked its head backward. Allosaurus did not need to kill immediately. It only needed to create deep wounds that caused blood loss and weakened its prey. Then continue following until the opponent no longer had enough strength to resist. This was an effective strategy in a world where many herbivores were so large that they were almost impossible to bring down with a single strike. Its long arms with 3 sharp claws were also an important advantage, still retaining strong and flexible forelimbs that could help hold or slash when approaching prey at close range. The fossils themselves told that story. Many sauropod bones have been discovered bearing tooth marks that match the size and shape of Allosaurus jaws. Some wounds had healed, showing that real attacks had taken place while the animal was still alive. That proves this was not only scavenging activity, but real hunts within the Jurassic ecosystem. However, becoming the ruler did not mean being safe. Many Allosaurus skeletons have been found with signs of broken bones, damaged vertebrae, cracked ribs, or jaws that had once been injured and then healed. One of their most formidable opponents was Stegosaurus. With large bony plates along its back and a tail carrying 4 sharp spikes nearly 1 meter long, Stegosaurus was not easy prey. A single accurate swing could cause serious injury to any predator. The power of Allosaurus came from the perfect balance between speed, flexibility, biological weapons, and hunting strategy. But no matter how terrifying it was, Allosaurus was still only the king of one part of the world. When the sun sank beneath the oceans that covered much of the planet, even stranger, more mysterious predators waited. One of the most successful predators was the ichthyosaur, often called the fish lizard. What is fascinating is that they looked very similar to modern dolphins, even though they were not closely related. Some species were more than 10 meters long, but what amazed scientists most was their enormous eyes. The species Ophthalmosaurus had eyes more than 20 centimeters in diameter, among the largest ever recorded in vertebrate animals. In deep waters where light almost disappeared, those eyes worked like biological telescopes, allowing them to detect prey from great distances. But speed was not the only path to success. In another evolutionary branch, plesiosaurs chose a completely opposite strategy. With a broad, wide body, forelimbs transformed into powerful paddles, and a strangely long neck, they looked more like creatures from mythology than real animals. Instead of charging forward with speed like ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs silently approached and then suddenly launched their heads forward like living spears. Two completely different strategies, yet both reveal the astonishing creativity of evolution in solving the same problem: how to hunt as effectively as possible. However, the title of the most terrifying predators of the Jurassic Ocean belonged to the giant plesiosaur group, whose most famous representative was Liopleurodon. Many older documentaries once described it as being more than 20 meters long, but modern studies are more cautious, suggesting that most adult individuals were about 6 to 10 meters long. Its true power lay in its massive head, which made up a large proportion of the body. Its jaws held long, thick, extremely strong cone-shaped teeth, designed to grip struggling prey rather than slice it apart. Once its jaws closed, the chance of escape was almost gone. And yet, these sea monsters could exist only because of a much broader ecological foundation. Beneath them were colorful ancient coral reefs, dense schools of primitive fish, and countless ammonites, with their distinctive spiral shells. They became a food source for countless other creatures, from small fish to giant predators. Even the most terrifying monsters depended on the smaller links beneath them. Above the waves, a strange group of creatures was gradually perfecting the ability to do what once seemed impossible, turning the sky into a realm of their own. For most of the history of life on Earth, the sky was a territory almost without an owner. But by the Jurassic Period, nature had found the first solution to that seemingly impossible problem. Pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to truly conquer the sky through powered flight. What is fascinating is that, although they are often called flying dinosaurs, they were actually a separate branch of reptiles, closely related to dinosaurs, but evolving in a completely different direction. Their wings were not made of feathers like those of modern birds. They were also unlike bats, with a skin membrane stretched between multiple fingers. Among the most prominent inhabitants of the Jurassic sky was Rhamphorhynchus. Beautifully preserved fossils from the Solnhofen limestone quarries in Germany show that this species possessed a long tail ending in a diamond-shaped flap of skin that functioned like an airplane rudder. Forward-pointing sharp teeth helped it become an effective fish hunter. Tens of millions of years before modern seabirds appeared, this aerial hunting strategy had already been perfected by pterosaurs. Alongside it was Pterodactylus, one of the most famous creatures ever discovered. Contrary to the giant image often seen in films, many pterodactylous individuals had a wingspan of only about 1 to 1.5 meters. They were relatively small, agile, and well adapted to coastal areas, lagoons, and rocky islands. But how could these creatures sustain flights lasting for hours over the sea? The answer lay in a body structure almost custom designed for the sky. Pterosaur bones were extremely thin and hollow inside, only a few millimeters thick, significantly reducing weight while still maintaining strength. At the same time, the chest contained powerful muscles that generated enough wing-beat force to lift the body into the air. Many species also possessed long, narrow wings, allowing them to use air currents over the ocean to glide for dozens of kilometers, while consuming very little energy. For a long time, pterosaurs were described as smooth-skinned reptiles, like lizards with wings. But fossils preserving soft tissue have told a completely different story. Their bodies were covered with tiny hair-like fibers called pycnofibers. They may have been able to maintain a relatively stable body temperature, remain continuously active, and possess a high enough energy level to support life in the air. For tens of millions of years, those winged shadows ruled the Jurassic sky in a way no creature before them had ever achieved. But evolution did not stop there. In 1861, at a limestone quarry in the region of Bavaria in what is now Germany, quarry workers discovered a small fossil that was later regarded as one of the most important discoveries in the history of paleontology. This creature was only about the size of a modern crow and was named Archaeopteryx. The moment Archaeopteryx was announced was also so remarkable that it was almost symbolic. Only 2 years earlier, Charles Darwin had published On the Origin of Species, the work that laid the foundation for modern evolutionary theory. Archaeopteryx appeared like an answer preserved in stone for 150 million years. This fossil confused the scientific world. Its wings carried fully formed feathers with an asymmetrical structure closely resembling those of modern birds. These were not simple fibers used for retaining heat, but feathers capable of generating lift in the air. Archaeopteryx had jaws filled with sharp teeth instead of the toothless beak of today's birds. It possessed a long bony tail made of many separate vertebrae. On each wing, there were also 3 fingers bearing sharp, curved claws. These were characteristic features of small theropod dinosaurs living during the Jurassic Period. It seemed as though 2 different worlds had been joined within a single body. Half dinosaur, half bird, and that very mixture turned Archaeopteryx into one of the strongest pieces of evidence showing that birds originated from dinosaurs. When paleontologists compared the skull, hand bones, leg bones, and joint structure of Archaeopteryx with feathered theropods discovered later, birds were revealed to be a surviving branch of dinosaurs. Birds were a surviving branch of dinosaurs. However, its breastbone structure was not developed enough to produce strong and continuous wing beats. Many researchers believe Archaeopteryx probably spent most of its time in trees. The curved claws on its wings and feet helped it climb through branches in ancient forests. When it needed to move or escape predators, it could launch from a high branch, spread its feather-covered wings, and perform controlled glides through the empty space between the forest canopies. They began exploiting a new living space between the earth and the clouds. What is even more miraculous is that this legacy never disappeared. After extinction events, after the collapse of the giant empires that once ruled the planet, the winged lineage of Archaeopteryx continued to survive. They adapted, diversified, and eventually spread across every continent on Earth. And yet, beneath them was a strange, deep green world that modern humans can scarcely imagine. In the minds of many people, the Jurassic Period was the age of giant dinosaurs. But what is far more shocking is the absence of the most familiar things in today's world. The Jurassic Period was a lush green world, but it was a green that was strange, mysterious, and far more ancient than any landscape still existing on modern Earth. Seen from above, much of the continents at that time were covered by almost endless forests of ancient conifers. The ancestors of today's pines, firs, and cypresses rose high into dense canopy layers. Creating green oceans across the land. Beneath the forest canopy were countless ferns and tree ferns several meters tall, covering the ground. What made this entire plant world special was that it operated without flowers. Today, more than 90% of land plant species belong to flowering plants. But throughout much of the Jurassic period, they had not yet appeared or had not yet played a significant role in ecosystems. Plants reproduce through spores or naked seeds, spreading through wind and the natural environment instead of depending on pollinators such as bees or butterflies. But reality was exactly the opposite. Geological evidence shows that the Jurassic climate was generally warmer and wetter than today. Many forests stretched for thousands of kilometers with almost no interruption. Functioning like gigantic biological factories. Continuously converting sunlight into the energy that sustained the entire planet. It was those primeval forests that solved one of the greatest questions of the Jurassic period. How could Earth feed the largest animals ever to exist on land? Imagine a Brachiosaurus weighing dozens of tons moving through the forest. Its famous long neck allowing it to reach high canopies that most other animals could never touch. Meanwhile, Diplodocus swept across lower layers of vegetation. And this division of feeding height allowed many herbivorous dinosaurs to coexist without directly competing for the same food source. From the giants on the ground to the hunters in the sky, to the creatures in the ocean, all depended on the energy that began in those deep green forests. Beneath the soil that nourished those primeval forests, enormous geological forces had begun to move, and they would change the face of the entire Jurassic world in a way no living creature could prevent. For hundreds of millions of years before that, most of the planet's land masses had joined together into a single supercontinent called Pangaea. From space, it looked like a colossal block of land stretching from the North Pole down to the South Pole, surrounded by a vast ocean. However, beneath that seemingly stable surface, enormous forces were silently building. Heat from deep within Earth's mantle continuously pushed tectonic plates into motion. By the Jurassic Period, that pressure finally began to prevail. The planet no longer kept its original shape. It began to tear itself apart. At first, cracks appeared as valleys stretching thousands of kilometers through the heart of the supercontinent. Over time, the rifts widened, and magma from within the Earth continuously rose and cooled into new rock. North America began to separate from Africa. South America gradually moved away from the continent opposite it. Seawater flooded into the newly formed gaps, creating early ocean basins. From those very rifts, the Atlantic Ocean of today began to be born. As Pangaea began to split into larger landmasses such as Laurasia in the north and Gondwana in the south, populations of organisms that had once lived in the same environment were gradually divided by oceans and geographic distance. Species could no longer move easily across vast stretches of land as they had before. And that isolation became a powerful engine of evolution. Groups of organisms that were originally similar began adapting to different local conditions. According to many paleontologists, the powerful diversification of many dinosaur groups during the Jurassic Period was directly connected to this geographic separation. The global climate also changed profoundly as the continents were pulled apart. And more new coastlines appeared. Moisture from the ocean could move deeper inland, and many regions became warmer and wetter. Ecosystems flourished on an unprecedented scale. However, that process did not unfold peacefully. Along the rift zones, earthquakes frequently shook the ground. Volcanoes erupted violently, releasing vast amounts of lava and gases into the atmosphere. What is most astonishing is that what happened during the Jurassic Period is still shaping the modern world. The positions of the continents, the existence of the Atlantic Ocean, many major ocean currents, and even part of today's global climate patterns all trace back to movements that began more than 180 million years ago. But to understand why dinosaurs had the chance to rise and become the rulers of the world in the first place, we must turn back to the time before the Jurassic Period, when Earth had just survived one of the most terrifying biological disasters in history. An event that swept away most life, and opened the path for the dinosaur empire to appear. The Jurassic Period was not only the age of gigantic creatures, but a stage when Earth recovered after a mass extinction, restructuring its ecosystems to create one of the most successful living worlds in the planet's history. For nearly 56 million years, dinosaurs occupied the land. Giant reptiles ruled the oceans. And the sky belonged for the first time to flying vertebrates. That world has come to an end, but its evolutionary legacy and extraordinary ability to adapt are still continuing, vividly present in every bird wing flying across the sky today. Thank you for staying with WUFO Space until the very end of this journey through the vast universe. If you found this video interesting and insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to WUFO Space so you won't miss our next cosmic adventures. Your support means the world to us and fuels our passion to keep exploring the wonders beyond.